So, everyone, welcome to another episode of What I Crush. And today I'm sitting here with one of my very favorite people, somebody I have the absolute pleasure of working with, Stacey Sauls, who is the CEO of the Stacey Sauls Group, serving all of Charlotte and the surrounding areas, Charlotte, North Carolina. And last year, listen to this. Last year, Stacey's team closed 305 units for 115 million in volume. And so far this year, in 2021, they have closed and pended 229 units and 120 in closed and pended volume. So, Stacey, thank you for taking the time and investing in all of us today. We so appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Good. So from what I hear, you crush saving deals, that you're really good at that.
So you know what's funny about that is when you said, what do you crush? And I said, I don't know what I crush. And we had a couple of deals that were going haywire, and our director of operations says, Stacey, you have a superpower. I'm like, what's that? She's like, it's saving deals. And I said, let me go tell Jordan I'm really great at saving deals. I do have a superpower. So hopefully I give some good nuggets today.
I think there's a valuable leadership lesson that Stacey just shared with me, or all of us, I should say, that sometimes you're not actually conscious of your skill. And that's one of the hardest parts of scaling a business, right? Stacey, you were on the call with Craig Zuber. Remember, he was talking about how we don't always know what makes us awesome because it's just part of our habits. And
which is also why we have trouble training, right? Rainmakers have trouble training because we're not aware that we do it on a subconscious level. So I'm excited to do this with you because it allowed me to take notes and really figure out how the heck do we actually save deals.
Right.
Because you just do it, right?
Right. And if you're looking for a business building trip, one of the things one of the things I recommend often is hire a documentary crew to just walk around with you for a month. You will discover the good, the bad, and the ugly, right?
Ooh, I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, Stacey, first off, what is saving the deal? What does that even mean?
Yeah, so I will say, I think a lot of you will agree with me that right now, well, buyer agents will say the hardest part is getting the contract, right? Listing agents and buyer agents will say it's really difficult to get it contract to close. I think everywhere we're going over asking price, we're waiving appraisals, and then we don't expect the appraisal to fall that short. We're waiving repairs, and then, we get that giant inspection report. So we really need to know how to navigate everything as far as how we're communicating with the agents, how we're communicating with our clients, and also teaching the other agents how to communicate with their clients. And I know that sounds silly, but in our area, I don't even know what the count is. There's so many realtors right now, and a lot of them aren't trained yet, and that's okay. And some people on this call might not be trained yet, but we'll teach you a workaround of that today. The point is that we need to know how to be able to get the contract to closing and help everybody make it there.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So when a deal needs saved, Stacey, when you get the call, the text, the voicemail, whatever, walk us through it. How do you, what's the process?
Okay, so let's say I get a call and deal's about to fall apart, and let's use an example. Okay, say low appraisal. Okay, buyer waived appraisal. Gap, they said we can make up the difference.
You're on the listing side.
I'm on listing side. You know what? I am. Both sides are going to be difficult when I tell you this. All right. So a buyer said, hey, we don't care if it appraises or not. Appraisal comes in 50,000 low. They weren't expecting that gap. The agent wasn't. Buyer agent, I wasn't expecting it. What do you do? So I got that call and I thought, okay. And the first thing is not to panic.
Got it. Don't panic.
Sounds simple, but you just need to breathe. Just need to breathe. Don't respond right away. Don't call your client right away. Just put it to the side and figure out, okay, what solutions do we have? What options do we have?
So one thing you just mentioned, Stacey, and I'm taking notes here. So one of the things that you said is don't call your clients right away.
Yeah,
So an appraisal comes in $50,000 low, and you don't just pick up the phone and call your seller
absolutely
and
not.
say,
No, because I say don't panic, but really I probably need to throw a little temper tantrum, say some words, get it out of my system so I can think clearly, right? And if I and if I make that call right away, whoo, they're gonna feel my energy, they're gonna feed off of it, and it's not gonna end well.
"Hmm, okay,
Right?
so what
So
you're
I have to be able to think logically before I call them because they're gonna start thinking irrationally.
okay. So what you're saying is you're thinking irrationally when you first get the call.
Absolutely. I am ticked. I'm like, how did this happen? What am I gonna do? So I have to breathe, just put it to the side and write down a list. What are our options?
Okay.
Here's the good news is that at this point in my career, I know the options. If you don't know the options, you need to call an experienced agent to figure out what options do you have because we've got to know all the options before we call the clients.
Okay.
At least the top three options. Maybe not all the options. Give them a couple options.
So that's almost like a thinking time exercise, right? Like if you
It
just took
is.
out a sheet of paper and wrote at the top, what are my options or what are our options here? And then just brainstorming down on them. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, I had five blowing up at one time last year. I mean, because we all had a lot during COVID blowing up. And I remember having to put the files next to each other on my desk and thinking, okay, this is the first project. What are the solutions for this? And not even think about the other four.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So you got to look through what are your solutions or what are your opportunities. And this is where I think deals fall apart is that we don't pick up the phone. We start texting, right? We start texting the other agent. How is this appraisal low? What are we going to do? Well, here's the issue with texting. You don't know buyer motivation anymore. Do they even want the house? Can they even make up that gap? Like, where are we? And to figure all those out, we have to pick up the phone and we have to say, hey, to the agent, look, I'm on your side. We all want to get this to the closing table. Where's your client at? Where's your client at mentally? Where's your client at financially? And talk through the options with the agent. So I'm going to do that before I ever call our client. And I would say on buyer side too, talk to the listing agent before you ever call your buyer with a low appraisal.
Okay.
Because you also want to know seller motivation. Like everybody has to come together and say, hey, is seller going to budge? Can buyer make up the difference? Where are we? What are we going to do? We just had this happen in the seller. I knew the seller wasn't going to come down because we had so many offers on it. So I just told the buyer, we have so many offers on this. Does your buyer want it? He said, yeah, she wants it. He said, can she financially make up the gap? She can. Does she want to? Absolutely not. Right? Is the deal going to fall apart? I don't know. So where do we go from here? Right? So in this case, we looked at all our options, which are we could get another appraisal. We actually couldn't because it's a VA loan. So we're stuck. So we can fight the appraisal. So the agent and I collaborated and we put up a great fight. I thought this is going to get changed. Nope. Appraiser says, nope, sorry. It is what it is. We're not changing it. So at that point, the buyer agent said, my client was actually 53,000, doesn't want to put down the 53,000 and they want this house. So he and I collaborated and I said, what about this? Put the 53,000 down, close. Your buyer can do a refinance in 3-6 months from now, right? And do a cash out because the values will be there then and get their money back and just put it back in the bank. So it's uncomfortable and they get the house.
And they're running a risk, right? But if they want the house enough, I mean, they
Absolutely.
risk they're not losing the money. The cash is just tied up.
Yeah.
And how did you come up with that, Stacey? Like where, like,
It took me 5 days. And I think that's important to realize too, is that everybody needs thinking time. You don't need to come up with an immediate solution. You've got to let the seller know these are your options, the buyer know, and the agents need to communicate. right? We all want to hold it together. Let's let everyone have their irrational thoughts, let them throw some stuff, get it all out of their system, and then figure out logically how to move forward.
Okay. So in this case of fighting the appraisal, that's how you bought the extra time to do
Yeah.
that.
So I think the most important part about this call is that your mindset has to be strong, because if I tell you it takes me 5 days to hold a deal together and your mindset isn't strong, you may not be lead generating for 5 days because all you're thinking about is this one file that you've got issues with.
Mm.
So you've got to be able to put it up on a shelf. You're still working on the side, yes, but it's not consuming your entire day. You give everyone their options. You're waiting on everyone to make a decision on what's right for their families. And you go about your business.
Yeah, and I think when you're talking about the mindset piece of this, Stacey, I mean, I don't know what the statistic is today, but it used to be that the average realtor sells 8 homes a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we hear it over and over again from agents, because you said lead gen, and they
Yeah.
say, well, I've got so many files and I've got so many clients, like I can't offer good service and still lead generate. But if you're one of those people that an eighth of your income is now on the line, and you're in the mindset of, holy crap, like I'm going to lose an eighth of my, or 12.5% of my income for the year,
Yeah.
then you're in total scarcity thinking,
You
right?
are. And your clients feel that,
Yeah.
right? Because at that point, you're not thinking logically. How are you supposed to guide them? Because you're really thinking, just close, right? And your clients are thinking, I don't want to throw down $50,000. And
Mhm.
you're not able to explain how this works to them so that they can make a good decision. You're no longer in rapport. If you have commission breath, you lose rapport. You lose rapport, you lose everything.
Totally. Yep. So the bottom line of that conversation is, if you want to do the best by your client, you need to build the company big enough that you don't feel held captive to any one
Yeah.
transaction.
And you know what? I'm actually glad you brought that up. So if you have one or two deals closing and one's about to fall apart and you're worried because that's your income, it could go the other way. Like if you look at our team, we've got 30, 35 deals a month closing. And then you're thinking, Stacey, why are you so worried about getting this client to the closing table? You know, financially, you're okay because we're service based, right? And you
Mhm.
care. So if you're only caring about the money, you're going to have deals fall apart. You've got to care about the family getting what they want or the client getting what they need.
Yep.
Does
Yep.
that, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And the other thing that you mentioned here, if you look at what we call it in real estate, we call it co-op for a reason. It's
Yeah.
cooperation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing that you said is, we're all in this together, or I'm on your side, or when you
Mm-hmm.
called the buyer's agent in this example, it sounds like your goal is to really get on the same side of the fence so that the two of you can pool resources, energy, time, whatever, to get this to the end zone, so to speak, right?
Absolutely. And if you play it that way, your future deals are saved with that agent, right? They're going to want to work with you again. They're going to remember, hey, this is the time you reached out and said, hey, what does your client need? How can we get it to closing?
Right. Right. Okay. So, Stacey, one of the things that you said in there, and I'm curious about, is fighting an appraisal. So
Oh,
if
yeah.
somebody on here needs to fight an appraisal, walk me through the first couple of steps that you've used to actually make
Sure.
that win.
It's kind of one of my favorite things, although I did lose that one. However, I win a lot of them. So you need to learn how to pull comps, right? And if you don't, education is so important. You've got to attend all the classes you can. If you can meet with an appraiser, do that, learn how they actually comp houses out. So what we do is we pull the comps for them that we want them to use, and we say, here's comp number one, actually make adjustments for them. If we were doing this appraisal, we would adjust up for this and down for that, da, 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 da. Attach the comps and just scan it over to the appraiser to plead your case. So you just make their job as easy as possible, right? Because if you want something changed, think about it from the appraiser standpoint. They're out there in the field all day. I bet they have a ton of agents calling them saying, I need you to change this or look at this again. So just make it as easy as possible on their part where they say, okay, I understand what they're saying. Let me go back and look at what they've submitted.
Okay.
And I hear a lot of agents say, I don't want to do their job. That's their job. Well, it's our job too, right? If deals were easy, then people wouldn't need us.
That's true.
Yeah, if we didn't have roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, like we are going to encounter them. So let's figure out the easiest way to get over them.
Well, and all of this becomes a story, right? Like when
Yeah.
you're in the listing appointment, and obviously you don't want to use the VA one that fell apart, but if
Right.
you have these specific stories around this transaction, this issue came up, and this is how we specifically handled it.
Mm-hmm.
In today's world of ongoing commission compression, where people are looking to pay less, then isn't that a really great way for you to articulate your value about how it's not about getting the house under contract? That's the easy part.
Yeah.
It's getting it
Contract to
closed
close.
at its inflated price, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I'm going to give you a listing leverage tool as well. When you're in that listing appointment, you let your client know you'll call them when you have an offer. Once you go under contract, you're going to call them when they need to make a decision. Like, what does that mean? If you see me calling your phone, it's because I need to talk about repairs, I need to talk about financing, appraisal, something. So please answer the phone. That way they know not to keep reaching out to you. Is everything on track? Is everything on track? They see your phone call and know, oh gosh, Stacey called. We're going to have to make a decision. So they're already mentally prepared. I don't know what this is. And then I call them and say, hey, here's what happened. And here's our options.
Yeah, that's great.
Right. And then here's what I would do if I were you.
So the thing you said earlier, Stacey, that stuck out to me is education is important,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
And if you were, let's say, the head of education
Hmm.
for the realtors on this call, and you could put books, classes, whatever that would help them in this saving the deal,
Yeah,
what would you recommend that they do? How could they educate themselves?
great question. I would say go through Ignite again. I know it
Yeah.
sounds so basic, but I think it's very important to keep going through that and having conversations. I would read books on emotional intelligence, right? That's how you're going to get your clients to do what you want them to do. There's a whole lot that goes into it as far as getting your clients on the same page, right? And you and I actually talked about this. Do you remember when we talked about the cancer patient? You said a doctor isn't going
Oh,
to come in the room, right? Yeah, we were on a coaching call. You said doctor's not going to come in the room and say all these things and then say, "Oh, by the way, you have cancer."
right,
Right? So same thing in real estate. We need to know not to call up our clients and say, hey, how's the weather? How are you doing today? Hope you guys are doing great. What did you do this weekend? Blah, blah, blah. By the way, your appraisal is 50,000 short.
hmm,
We've got to figure out how to talk to people. And we've got to say, hey, here's what happened. Here's what we can do to move forward. I don't need you to decide right now. I need you to just talk to each other and then call me back to discuss. When it's a good time for me to call you back. Right?
right,
Let them tell you how long they need to process what's going on with the file.
right, right. Yeah, and I think that's bedside manner, and
Right.
the the other thing that you said, though, that I think would be is immensely valuable, especially to some of the newer agents that might be on this call, is you said, go out and visit an appraisal or an appraiser, right?
Yeah,
And I think there are some appraisers that would even let you shadow them for a day, um, get out in the field and learn that side of the business.
absolutely. Because that's going to give you confidence.
Right,
Right. And you and I talked about competence and confidence. And if you're competent, you already have the confidence.
right,
And sometimes you're confident, but you don't know what you're doing. And then you lead your client down the wrong path. And that's not good for them or for your career. So I do think education is the first important thing that you got to know what your options are and you got to
totally.
be right about them. I mean, that's what we're being paid for. We're not putting a sign in the yard and getting a contract. We're guiding them through one of the biggest financial decisions of their life.
Yeah. And I think you're dead on there, Stacey. And that's the power, or sometimes the issue with positive thinking is you can be positive and be positively wrong. And competence absolutely breeds confidence. And
Right.
if the more you understand, and if you don't have experience, like you said earlier, you've got to lean on the experience of the agents in your office or your broker or whoever, and just
Yeah.
learn how to ask the right questions. So Stacey, at this point, is there anything about this that I haven't asked you or that they
Yeah.
absolutely need to know?
Yeah, I think, what's that saying? You rarely learn anything when your mouth is open.
I never learned
So
anything by talking or something like that.
yeah, something like that. So I think that's important when you are calling the other agent. Let the other agent talk. You're going to get gold by asking questions. When you call your clients, you're going to get gold, right? Ask them. So I know you wanted to get to Florida or wherever. I mean, if you listen to me as I'm talking out loud, I'm like, a lot of this is bold, right? It's the bold scripting that's just become so ingrained in me that it just rolls off my tongue when I do phone calls. And when people on our team in the office here, they're just like, gosh, how'd you do that? And really it's training. And now it just comes naturally. So I think everyone needs to study scripts, not memorize them, but just study them so that when you do make those phone calls, it just flows. Your clients have the confidence in you. So they're going to listen to you.
Yeah, totally.
Right? Have you ever heard of conversational hypnosis?
Or is that what you're doing to me right now?
Yeah. Put you in like a trance-like state. No, it's true. It's a real thing, right? Okay, so when you have rapport with somebody, this stuff like lights me up. All right, so you have rapport with somebody, and that puts them in a trance-like state, not steak. All right, where they are willing to listen to you and do what you say. They're not going to give you pushback if you've got them in that, right? And the way to do that is, well, for them to trust you. So you need to be confident and then use their words back to them. So take the appraisal, right? Take the appraisal issue. Hey guys, this is what's going on. We've got a low appraisal. I've got to figure this out. Here's your solutions. And seller says, this is a bunch of crap, right? And I'm going to say, this is a bunch of crap. And here's what we need to do to move forward. So you're going to validate their feelings.
Yep. That's called keyword backtracking.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
Yep. So keyword backtracking. And Allie on our team taught us this: feel, felt, found.
What's that?
Oh, okay. It's really cool. So you say, I understand how you feel, Jordan. I've had clients that have felt the same. What we found is that when they proceeded this way, they were happy with the outcome and they got the house. So I understand how you feel. We've had clients that have felt the same way, and what we found is,
oh, I love that. I love that.
It works every time. It's really creepy, actually.
So the word that you've used several times here, Stacey, and again, if we're, Maslow used to say there are 4 stages of learning. There is conscious incompetence, conscious competence. I don't remember them all, but the bottom line was that the what happens is at the 4th, we'll put this in the notes, but the 4th is unconscious competence. And what I think you are probably a master at is that you're unconsciously competent at building rapport.
Right. Absolutely. But yes. And I trained myself through bold with mirroring and matching, body language, tonality, words. So it all ties together to get your clients to do what they need to do.
Yeah, I remember this, Stacey, when we learned this in bold, and I had a client, his name was Raymond, and Raymond would talk and say that he would say, so Jordan, what do you think my house is worth? And I'd say, well, Raymond, here are the comps. Based on that, what do you think?
And now, they feel comfortable.
Yeah, they hear that and they're like, that's so mean, or it's manipulative. Understand there's a difference between influence and manipulation. Manipulation is me trying to get you to do things for my reasons. Influence is me trying to get you to do things for your reasons, right? So I'm trying to align you to what you say are your goals. And Raymond to this day still reaches out to me every now and then, even though he's moved half of a continent away, because we're such buddies. And he was a for sale by owner for a year that nobody could get listed. And once I got him in front of me and did the thing, we
I
clicked.
love that. Yep. And you've got to do it right off the bat at the listing appointment, right? Because if they choose to hire you, say you're a referral from another agent, so they feel like they have to go with you, but you haven't gained rapport. Then you have an issue and you call them and you're trying to work through it and you don't understand why nobody will listen to you. You never gained rapport. You skipped the whole first step. They hired you out of obligation to the referring agent. They didn't hire you because they actually liked you or wanted to do business with you. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So really it starts at the very beginning. You've gotta get in good with them. So when you do call them with a problem, because you probably are in today's market, there's going to be some hiccup. You need them to listen to you to get the desired end result.
Right. So if we're recapping this, Stacey, and we're looking at what you shared with us and what makes you a master deal saver. Number one, when something happens, which inevitably it will, right? Then don't call your seller right away. Don't talk to the agent right away. Do some thinking time. Write it at the top of a piece of paper or whatever. What are my options? After that, talk to the buyer's agent and ask the question, where's your buyer mentally and financially? And establish
or listing agent.
Or the listing agent. Yep.
Don't send an email. Don't send a text. That is a phone call.
Got it. Yep. That's something that we need to repeat over and over again. Get them on the phone. Where are they mentally? Where's their buyer? Where's them, financially? Do they still want the house? And then you can walk them through the options, and they might have some options too. That's the co-oping part. And that's when you call your clients and let them know, here's what's happened. Right.
Right.
And
here's your options. Yeah. And if you call them and you are scared to death about the outcome, you're going to scare them and they're not going to be able to think logically. Right. We have to be the voice of reason. We are paid to be the voice of reason, right? Otherwise, everyone will put a for sale by owner sign in their yard. We sold our own house. Gosh, this was 6 years ago. And we had a low appraisal. And I signed over $5,000. I did an addendum. I sent it over. And my husband comes home and he says, I can't believe you didn't even look at the appraisal. You fight so hard for your clients and you just gave away $5,000 of ours without even looking at it. What's going on? And I sat there and I said, I'm emotionally invested and I can't even think logically right now. Right? So now I always say I'm going to hire somebody to sell our house when we sell again, because that's our job, is to think logically when they're emotionally invested.
Yep. And the way to do that is to lead generate and have a lot of deals so that you're not held captive income wise by just a few. The agents who do just a few transactions are the ones who give the worst advice, both from an experience perspective, but also financially, because they're 12.5% of their income might float out the window.
Absolutely. You got to keep it going. Plus, if you think about, files are going to knock you down, right? You're going to get knocked down, and to be able to get back up faster, you just have to have more deals. You got to have more experience, more confidence to say, okay, I got knocked down. It's going to take me 5 minutes to regroup.
Right. Right. You ever heard of that? Like, give your feelings a 5-minute funeral?
No, but I like it.
Instead of timer.
I guess I do that.
I'm going to put that myself for 5 minutes, but when the 5 minutes is up, done. The funeral's over.
That's pretty much me. Sometimes I'm like, do I have feelings? And I do. And at the same time, I'm like, I got to figure out how to move forward. My job is to put the pieces back together.
Yep. I love that. Well, Stacey, thank you so much for all your knowledge and for sharing with us. And if any of you out there are looking for a great team in Charlotte, North Carolina, or the surrounding areas, keep Stacey in mind, because she will absolutely, as you can see, take great care of them. And I'll
get them the closing. You'll get a referral check for sure.
That's right. That's right. She will protect your referral money. And just so you all know, next week is the 4th of July weekend, so we will not have a call. The week after that, I'm actually on vacation, so we won't have What I Crush again for 2 weeks. So join us back then. And again, Stacey, thank you so much. And it's
Thank
such a pleasure
you.
being in
I
business with
appreciate
you.
you. Thank you so much.